There's a view of India that is all mystics and meditation. But if a man reaches the heart of his own religion, said Gandhi, he has reached the heart of the others too. Some of the mystics are modern enough, like Swami Chidananda, president of the Divine Life Society and one of the leading saints of Hindu India. At Palam Airport in Delhi, I met him on his way from Rishikesh to Calcutta to begin his tour of Divine Life Society centers all over the country. He offered his prayers and blessings, indifferent to the din of a modern airport, the gentle words of compassion often drowned in the roar of jet engines. Dressed in the saffron robe of a Swami, the highest order of the Hindu religion, his slight ascetic figure seemed incongruous in this world of hectic technology. Swami Chidananda is now a public figure as well as a saint, and he accepts the demands of his public presence in the same way that he accepts his spiritual calling. There's much in his appearance and manner to remind one of Mahatma Gandhi. On the banks of the Ganges at Rishikesh, I have seen Swami Chidananda at his morning meditation. Rishikesh is a tiny town in Uttar Pradesh, in the foothills of the Himalayas. Sunrise ends the hour of meditation. Those who practice yoga consider it auspicious to meditate by the Ganges, the sacred river of India. To meditate, to apply thought force consciously, to achieve harmony both within and without, to obtain control over the mind and the emotions, and thus to open the faculty of intuition. Rishikesh lies in that area of the Ganges called Devaloka, the home of the gods, which stretches several hundred miles from Haridwar up into the Himalayas. And in India, each serious spiritual person will eventually make his way there, as Swami Chidananda did 25 years ago. At the age of 22, Sridhar Rao, as he then was, graduated from the University of Madras. The son of rich parents, that brilliant scholar might have been one of the elite of society. Instead, he chose to tread the path of austerity. The center of Swami Chidananda's community, although he would say it is only a physical home, is the ashram at Rishikesh, distinguished by the twin towers of a temple and a shrine to the founder of the Divine Life Society, Swami Sivananda. An ashram is really a Hindu monastery, but people who are not members come to Swami Chidananda with their own personal problems for advice and comfort with bad coughs and bad consciences. Sometimes they wish only to touch him, but Chidananda does not claim spiritual power. If a man wishes to believe, he says, let him feel free to do so. The real meaning of an ashram is a place to live, the place of one's guru, one's own spiritual teacher. Serve, love, meditate, realize. The Divine Life Society was founded here in 1936 by Swami Chidananda. And there's a monument which stands outside the ashram at Rishikesh to commemorate his life. Swami Chidananda, hailed as the prophet of a new age for his inestimable services in the cause of raising the moral and spiritual standards of modern mankind. Serve, love, meditate, realize. The four corners of his belief. Be kind, be compassionate.
In our great culture, in the Hindu view of life, all the stages of an individual's life were meant to be progressive stages of gradual ascending spiritual unfoldment, ultimately culminating in sannyas, the whole soul's dedication to God's quest alone.
Each morning in the prayer hall of the ashram, Chedananda talks to visitors and ashramites, often in English, the only language in common among the many Indian people as well as the foreigners.
Ashram of the second stage.
Part of the discourse I listened to was addressed to one of his younger visitors, who had just reached his 21st birthday.
For the service of all humanity.
He talked of the four stages of Hindu life: the student, the householder, the recluse, and the final renunciate. Soon, he said, you will become a son-in-law and enter into the second stage of life, that of a householder. You must not consider this a stage of bondage, as many do. In the Hindu view of life, this second stage will provide you with a field for the service of all humanity.
And the helping of all mankind. Om Sharavana Bhava Sharavana Bhava Sharavana Bhava Pahi Mam Subramanya 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 Rakshama.
An ashram is a place to which people will come to devote their time to spiritual pursuits, each according to what he or she finds most beneficial. As in Hindu philosophy, there is no dogma, no compulsory discipline. Each person comes or goes of his own free will. At the end of each session, the Swami receives Arati, the sacred flame, all-consuming, all-transforming. And each disciple in turn pays his homage. The Hindu way of greeting a Swami is to touch or kiss his feet, and Chidananda always returns this gesture. Who am I, he has said, that people should prostrate before me? Disciples and devotees, high society and the lowly, they all come. There are no distinctions for this unusual man. I took my turn with the rest and paid my homage. I, a Muslim. In India, I never had to distinguish between Muslim and Hindu. And in the mind of Swami Chidananda, there are no words like distinction and partition. The day I paid my homage to Chedananda, they were decorating the temple of the ashram for the ceremony of Shivratri, the birthday of Shiva, one of the gods of the Hindu Trinity. Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, the creator, preserver, the destroyer, or rather the recreator. All day long they chanted Om Namah Shivaya, hail the name of Shiva. In the evening, the worshippers gathered on the veranda in front of the temple to continue the chant. and to take part in one of the 4 complete ceremonies or pujas, which would go on until sunrise. First, the purification by fire and the arrival of Swami Chidananda for the second of the 4 long ceremonies. The point of a puja is that God is considered to be an honored guest who is present in the object of worship. This time, the god is Shiva. The first act is to summon the divine presence into the object of worship, the lingam, an elliptical stone shape symbolizing neither beginning nor end, but eternity. The guest is refreshed, bathed in water from the Ganges, and offered food: milk, curds, honey, mixtures of bananas, sugar, coconut, rice. Any mixture, in fact, of tasty and costly ingredients. The food is then drained off into pots and committed to the Ganges, and the grease is washed away by water, while the people continue their chant, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. The lingam is decorated with sandalwood paste and kumkum, a red powder to protect against evil, the same powder that Hindu people will smear across their foreheads or chests. It was the hour of midnight, and we had not yet completed the second of the 4 sessions. All this ritual would be repeated twice more before sunrise. Finally, the lingam is garlanded with bay leaves, and the dressing reaches its climax, symbolizing God in all his glory. For me, this was a ritual of faith far removed from my own, which detests worship of idols. But I had never had the need to question the practices of Hindus, neither as a child nor as a grown man returning now to Rishikesh. These practices made up the faith of a man I too had come to recognize as a saint who had reached the heart of his own religion, and by so doing, as Gandhi said, had reached the heart of the others too. At the celebrations of the birthday of Shiva, I had witnessed some of the practices of Hindu faith. Now I saw Swami Chidananda taking 2 men through their degrees of evolution. First, a young man graduating from his brahmacharya, or period of studentship. He would not pass through the 2nd stage of a householder, but would go on from his brahmacharya to the 3rd stage of a recluse. He made his declaration of intent and received the yellow cloth which marks the halfway stage to the saffron, marking the final stage of renunciation, that of a Swami. Beside the effigy of his own guru, his spiritual teacher, Chidananda himself performed this ceremony. He is now guru to them all. Serve, love, meditate, realize. Then another man who had reached the final stage of becoming a fully fledged Swami. All his hair was shaved off. He can then decide to grow it again or not. But if not, he must be shaved clean each month. The first ritual of shaving leaves only a tiny tuft, or choti, symbolizing no attachment to the world, except to one's guru. And when a man finally becomes a sannyasi, a renunciate, there is no attachment at all. By the banks of the Ganges at Rishikesh, I watched the final ceremony of this young man's renunciation, the symbolic cutting off of the choti performed by Swami Chidananda himself. It was a significant moment for Chedananda too, for it was here in 1949, nearly 20 years ago, that his own guru, Swami Sivananda, the leader and founder of the Divine Life Society, had performed this ceremony on him. 3 times immersed in Ganga Maya, Mother Ganges, before receiving his saffron robe and touching the feet of Chedananda. Finally, the act of complete separation from his previous state, casting his loincloth into the sacred waters. By the waters of the Ganges at Rishikesh, the place of religion, in the area of Devaloka, the home of gods, another young man had attained to the highest order of Hinduism, one who aspires to achieve complete control of his senses. This must be one of the most solemn practices in Hindu ritual. And yet here it was, this final act, performed in the open, on any old heap of stones by the river, watched over by the usual inquisitive crowd of layabouts, and ignored completely by the young, who had other dreams to attend to. Chedananda's quarters at the ashram are small and simple. Like all the rooms here, his too is sparsely furnished. Within these few square feet, he lives and controls the Divine Life Society. A regular visitor is the Baba. With characteristic humility, Swami Chidananda returns the greeting. Once the Swami has decided to lose his hair, he must be shaved clean every month. It seemed incredible to me that this simple room should be the powerhouse of an organization with branches not only in India, but also in the major countries of the West. And that this austere, unassuming man was the dynamo. Here he writes, dictates letters, receives visitors, listens to their problems, and proffers advice, both worldly and spiritual. Here too he sleeps, eats, performs his yogic exercises, and prays. Sannyasis have no money, so the barber is paid by the ashram. But Chidananda can present him with prasad, food which has been offered to the gods. The walls of the ashram have many mottos, exhorting the inmates to keep the tenets of the Divine Life Society. In April of this year, as president of the Divine Life Society, Chidananda set out on a world tour. One of his last acts before leaving was to serve a farewell dinner himself to the people of the ashram and his visitors, and to offer food to his own guru, the founder of the ashram. Chidananda ate with knife and fork, a practice normally looked down upon by traditionalists. It is a measure of the indifference of this very modern man to beliefs he considers irrelevant. One of the principal guests was Swami Parvatika from the temple at Badrinath, 150 miles up the Ganges. In the winter, his ashram is snowbound, and he comes down river to warmer parts. Swami Parvatika, together with Shivananda, the founder of Rishikesh ashram, are considered to be two of the great 5 Indian saints of this century. Parvatika would be classed among the leading musicians of India too, in the same rank as Ravi Shankar. At Rishikesh, I listened to him playing the rag Bhairavi on an instrument of his own design, a combination of sitar and zither. On the day of Chidananda's departure for his world tour, the whole ashram lined up for the inevitable group photograph. Photographs are hardly unusual in India, but there was something incongruous in this performance too, which took me back to Delhi airport. Perhaps it's just that even in India, you look upon saints as people from another age. It's still not easy to associate them with things like cameras and jet aircraft. The disciples gathered round for the farewell wishes. They kissed feet and exchanged gifts and garlands. Even I was singled out for one from Chedananda. I, the passing visitor and Muslim. But then the rule of his order is quite plain. When a man becomes a sannyasi, it says, he renounces all possessions, all distinctions of caste, and all attachments to any particular country, nation, or religion. Just before he left, he touched the feet of his deputy, Swami Chidananda, who in his absence will preside over the affairs of the Divine Life Society. So the saint and public figure left Rishikesh, the place of religion, for his world tour. But not as a missionary. There is no place for the arrogant evangelical in Hindu thought. A man convinces or converts himself. His aim is to seek communion with God. How he achieves it is his problem. Serve, love, meditate, realize. The teachings of the Divine Life Society and of Swami Chidananda. But even in India, there is not always approval for men of this gentle thought, for men who strive to reach the heart of their own religion, and by so doing, as Gandhi said, reach the heart of the others too.